All right, good morning, boys and girls. So today for math, our lesson is investigation 5. We are talking about percents. All right. So I have a little bit of a visual here with me, and we do have a definition to write today. So a part of a whole number can be named as a fraction. We talked about fractions. A fraction is a part of a whole. So I'm going to write that down. That's a review for us. So a fraction is part of a whole. Okay. And not a hole like a hole in the ground, but a whole complete, something that's complete. So a decimal number, also named, is a part of a whole. So a fraction, a decimal, and a percent. So percent is what we're talking about today. Percent, the definition means per hundred. If you look at the second part of that word, cent, there are 100 cents in a dollar. That's one way to help remember. Or a century is 100 years. So per hundred. So 50. So I have shaded in these squares here. This is half of the squares. You can look at that and see. This is also 50 out of 100. And I just drew little arrows. 50 out of 100, 50 hundredths means 50%. That has the same meaning. Okay. The decimal, all right, a decimal for you too, is 50 hundredths. All right. So 50 hundredths, 50%, and 50 hundredths. Those all have the same meaning. So here's what that looks like. Here's what that looks like. Okay. So we read 50%, and this is how I grade your test. I put percents on it as 50%. A percent is expressed as a fraction with the denominator of 100. Any percent has a denominator of 100. Denominator is the number on the bottom. This is the percent sign. So it looks like this, circle slash circle. Okay. And that's like representing the denominator of 100. If you look, it's like a 1 and then 2 zeros. So that might be a helpful trick to remember what a percent sign looks like. 50% means 50 out of 100. So I'm going to also just put that in my notebook too. 50% equals 50 hundredths. Equals 50 hundredths. These are all the same. They're all equivalent. They're all equal. Okay, just like 50 cents is half of a dollar, 50% is half of a whole. The close relationship between cents and percents can help us understand percents. So 50% equals half. 50% is half. 50 cents is half. All right. So here are some examples. So we have a circle. One half of the circle is shaded. 50% is shaded. One half of a dollar is 50 cents. Here we have another circle. 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents. 1/4 equals 25%. So I'm going to write that down. The fraction 1/4 equals 25%, which also equals 25 hundredths in decimals. Okay, so 1/4 of a dollar is 25 cents. 1/4 of the circle is shaded. That's 25%. So that's half of that 50 up there. Then we have 1/10 of a dollar is 10 cents. Here. 1/10 is shaded equals 10%. So 1/10 equals 10%, which equals that's what it would look like as a decimal. 10 hundredths. 1/10. Okay, so you are going to answer these on your paper that I've given you, or if you have other paper, you can use that. Lined paper, please do it in pencil. $1 is what fraction of $5? So 5 would be your denominator, 1 would be your numerator. A penny is what fraction of a dollar? So 1 penny is how much of a dollar? 1 penny is what percent of a dollar? Okay, so those are going to be the same. Just one's going to be as a fraction, one is a percent. Same with the nickel. All right, so you're going to do those on your own. Estimating percents of a whole. So here's a picture of a glass. This glass is 100% full. You cannot fill that anymore. The glass on the right is 50% full. All right, it's only halfway full. All right, so in the next problems, you're going to estimate to find the best choice of how full each glass is. All right, so this glass. So if we can see that this is 50, would this one be 60? Does that look like it's more than that, or 80? Is it 40, really close to that 50? Or is it 20, a lot less than that 50? So you guys, you can do those on your own. Just write down the correct letter choice. And then finding the 1 cup is what percent of a quart. So you'll have to go back into our lesson that talks about how many cups are in a quart. With our king gallon and our queens and our princesses and our cats, right? Finding the remaining percent of a whole. The parts of a whole are 100%. That means 25% of the circle is shaded, 75% is not shaded. Okay? So we have a circle. We have 25% shaded. So 25% shaded. So that means what's left, to find out what's left, we would just take 100 minus 25. Okay? And that is going to give us, working kind of fast there, but that's going to give us 75%. So 75% is not shaded. And I know that because the whole circle, if the whole circle was shaded, it would be 100%. So that's why I take 100, take away 25. And then I get 75% left. So you're going to do the same here. If 40% of the circle is shaded, what percent is not shaded? You're just going to take 100 minus 40, and that's going to give you your percent. 75% is shaded. What percent is not shaded? So again, you're going to take 100 minus 75. 80% of the answers were correct. What percent were not correct? 100 minus 80. Okay, so these next problems, you're going to write them as a fraction and a decimal. So 10%. If you wrote it in your notebook, that one you should be able to find. If the chance of rain is 10%, what is the chance that it will not rain? So you're writing as a fraction and a decimal, both. So there's a 10% chance of rain. Remember, when we do percent, it's out of 100. What's the chance it will not rain? So same concept, 100 minus the 10% is going to give you that answer. Okay, comparing percents to 1/2. Complete each comparison problem. All right, so we know 1/2 is 50%. So then you think 48%, is that less or more than 50? Okay, 52%, is that less or more than 50? 50% and 1/3. All right, so remember we talked about when the numerators are the same. When the denominator is different, so we can change this to 1/2. Is 1/2 greater or less than 1/3? When the denominator gets bigger, it means you get a smaller piece of pizza or cake. So the bigger the denominator, the smaller the percent is going to be, the smaller the fraction is going to be. Okay, 40% of the students in class were boys. Were there more boys or girls? You know the percent is out of 100. Then you think 100 minus 40. Okay, how many are girls? What percent? And then is that more or less than 40? Finding 50% of a number. Finding half of a number, we divide the number into 2 equal parts. Since 50% equals a half, we find 50% of a number by dividing it into 2 equal parts. Okay? How many eggs is 50% of a dozen? So we have to go back into our vocabulary and remember that 1 dozen equals 12 eggs. So there's a helpful hint. So 50% of 12, so 1/2 of 12 is going to be, and you're going to answer that one on your own. How many minutes is 50% of an hour? We'll have to go back and think. There are 60 minutes in an hour. So what is 1/2 of that 60 number? All right. Next one says, what is 1/2 of $10? So I can't really write anything down for that. What's half of 10? And then just don't forget your dollar sign. How many hours is 50% of a day? So we remember that 1 day equals 24 hours. So how many hours are in half of a day? Okay, so that is all that you are going to do for your work for math today, is just answer all of those problems that we kind of went through together a little bit, 1 all the way to 24. Okay, so make sure to do all of those problems. And that is your work for today.